Dreams are the mysterious language of our unconscious, where fears, desires, and forgotten experiences take the form of symbols. They can point to inner conflicts, unresolved issues, or even those parts of our personality that we diligently ignore. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most unsettling dream scenarios, death in a dream. It could be your own death, the demise of a stranger, or the passing of someone you know. In each case, the meaning will be unique. But the main keys to understanding are the emotions you experienced in the dream and the context of your real life. In other words, the circumstances under which this dream suddenly appeared. When you dream that you are dying or that some stranger is dying, it rarely has anything to do with an actual threat to your life. Much more often, such a dream speaks of the death of some part of yourself, a part you once suppressed, forgot, or buried within yourself. It could be a childhood dream you had to give up. It could be the creative side of your personality, stifled by your current rationality. It could be some forbidden feelings, resentment, anger, longing, or love. In general, now this part is demanding your attention. It reminds you of itself through your dreams, as if saying, I'm still here. I need a place in your life. The death of oneself is also an archetypal image. It's connected to the idea of the end of the old self and the birth of a new self. In Jungian terms, this is the process of individuation, that is, becoming a whole person through integrating suppressed and forgotten aspects of oneself. And dreaming about your own death signals that the dreamer is on the threshold of very important changes. They are ready to let go of old beliefs, habits, and limitations. And in the same way, in myths, yes, death and rebirth are very often central themes. They represent some kind of transformation. For example, like Osiris who dies and is reborn, symbolizing the cycles of nature and spiritual renewal. In Christianity as well, the death and resurrection of Christ embody the triumph over the old and the beginning of a new kind of life. Let's look at an example. A person dreams that an unknown man falls from a roof and dies. The dreamer doesn't know this person, but feels a strange sense of relief. So here, yes, what could this stranger symbolize? He could symbolize a rejected part of the dreamer's own personality, and his fall from a height may signify the collapse of old beliefs or illusions. And the feeling of relief in this case suggests that on an unconscious level, the person wants to let go of this part of themselves, to understand such a dream more deeply. It's worth asking yourself, what have I been suppressing in recent years? What part of myself do I want to get rid of? What am I unwilling to accept in myself? Which of my own qualities do I consider to be wrong? And if, in your dream, someone from your circle, like a friend, relative, or colleague, dies, it's rarely a prediction. More likely, such a dream reflects your hidden thoughts about these relationships. For example, if after the death of an acquaintance in a dream you feel relief, again, it may be that in reality you want more distance, but you don't dare admit it to yourself. A dream about the death of your parents can indicate a need for some kind of psychological autonomy, or a desire for some distance as well. At the same time, it can also be a fear of losing that connection. It may point to a very strong attachment. Sometimes the death of an acquaintance in a dream means that it's time to leave something behind in that relationship. Old grudges, excessive attachment, outdated roles, or some obsolete ways of interacting. Here's another example. A woman dreams that her friend dies from an illness. She cries, but then she realizes that her friend is now free. Such a dream may mean that their friendship has already changed, and the subconscious is saying goodbye to the old format of their relationship. The tears and the simultaneous feeling of freedom speak to the duality of emotions. On one hand, there is the fear of loss. On the other, the understanding that change is inevitable. In this case, it's helpful to analyze whether this relationship has become toxic or too dependent, and to consider what could be changed and what boundaries you might want to set. So if you dream about someone's death, yes, someone you know, try to analyze all of this, your relationship as a whole. For example, if you dream about your grandmother, she dies and she says, "It's time for me to go, but I leave you my wisdom." And in the dream, she turns into a beautiful book and you take it in your hands. What could a dream like that mean? It could mean a transition from dependence to understanding that this person can pass their wisdom on to you. From a state of fear of loss to a state where you accept the lessons when you are ready to let another person go. Here's another example. You dream that your spouse dies, but instead of grief, you feel a strange sense of relief. After their death, you suddenly discover that you can fly, travel the world. For example, this dream may reflect your desire for more independence in the relationship, or, again, the need to let go of certain aspects of your relationship, those that somehow limit you in life. The ability to fly after your spouse's death symbolizes newfound freedom and possibilities. Dreams about the death of animals often symbolize changes in our instincts, emotions, or basic needs. Example of a dream: you find a dead bird in your garden. When you pick it up, it suddenly comes back to life and transforms into a beautiful butterfly that flies away into the sky. This dream may symbolize the transformation of your aspirations or ambitions. The dead bird may represent a dream or goal that you considered unattainable for some reason, and its transformation into a butterfly symbolizes the unexpected fulfillment of that dream in a new form. Another example: you dream that your beloved dog dies in your arms. At the moment of its death, you feel its loyalty and love pouring into your heart. And you feel a great warmth. You are deeply moved. This dream may reflect the process of integrating the positive qualities you associate with your pet. Your bond, maybe perhaps some feelings connected to this pet, you also need to experience again. Maybe you have lost a pet before in your life. Maybe you need to recall those interactions. The death of a stranger. Dreams about the death of unknown people can symbolize our hidden fears and the unknown aspects of our personality or social issues that trouble us. For example, you're walking through the city and see a stranger suddenly drop dead in the middle of the street. No one but you pays any attention to it. You approach the body and discover that this stranger has your face. This dream may symbolize the realization of a part of your personality that you have been ignoring or suppressing. The indifference of those around you may reflect your feelings of loneliness. At the same time, recognizing this part of yourself means you are able or ready to establish an inner connection with this aspect of your personality. Next, for example, you dream that there are many soldiers, they are dying, and you cry out of helplessness. This dream may reflect your anxiety about global issues, a sense of responsibility for the world around you, and a feeling of powerlessness in the face of great tragedies. If you dream of mass death, yes, and the end of the world, this can also symbolize some large-scale changes happening in your life, in your worldview, or in the world around you. For example, if you're standing on top of a mountain in a dream, you see a giant wave covering cities, and the wave is vivid. And when it passes, you see that the world below has completely changed. Maybe it dies, and then it becomes brighter, more beautiful, more harmonious. This dream may reflect deep changes in your worldview, or your hopes that some global changes are happening in the world, and that they will lead to some new, better living conditions, for example. Another example, you dream that you are watching the Earth from space, and suddenly the planet explodes, breaking into millions of sparkling fragments. But instead of horror, you feel awe. You watch as these fragments come together to form a new and even more beautiful planet, for example. Such a dream may symbolize a complete rethinking of your own life, or, again, your worldview. The destruction of the old world and the creation of a new one. All of this reflects the process of your deep inner transformation. Next, resurrection. Dreams about rising from the dead can symbolize a second chance, or the revival of something you thought was lost. For example, you are at a cemetery and see a person rising from a grave. Looking closer, you recognize yourself as a child. You, the child, are smiling and reaching out to you with a toy you lost long ago. Such a dream may speak of the revival of childhood dreams or qualities you have lost, and as you grew up, and the toy may symbolize something very important that you have forgotten, some talent of yours. Here's another scenario. In the dream, you die and end up in the afterlife. There, you meet all the people you have ever hurt. But instead of punishing you, they forgive you and give you the chance to return to life and make things right. This dream may symbolize the process of forgiveness and making peace with your past. The opportunity to return to life represents a chance for redemption, for personal growth, for building new relationships with these people, for example. The main rule when interpreting such dreams is to focus on your emotions. Did you feel relief during your death or resurrection? Or was it a sense of calm? Or was it fear or panic, which reflects anxiety that needs to be addressed? Or maybe it was anger or guilt, which suggests that there is some unresolved conflict. It's also important to pay attention to the circumstances of the death in the dream. This is a very important element that helps us understand the deeper meaning of the dream. For example, was it a natural death, an accident, a murder, or a suicide? Each of these scenarios carries a unique message from the subconscious. The circumstances of the death are like a detective thread in the dream, which can lead us to unravel the mystery that our subconscious is conveying through this dream. It's also important to carefully analyze all the plot details, the people present in the dream, the manner or cause of death, who died, and so on. For example, a natural death may point to the natural ending of a certain stage in life, acceptance of the inevitable, and readiness to let go of the past. But an accident, on the other hand, can symbolize more unexpected changes, a crisis, a loss, or a feeling of losing control over the situation. Murder may point to inner conflict, self-destruction, or a struggle between different parts of one's personality. Suicide can also be connected to deep emotional turmoil, unresolved feelings that absolutely need to be processed. Be sure to write down all the details of such dreams after waking up. Record not only the events of the dreams, but also your emotions. And ask yourself, what or whom am I losing in this dream? What part of me has died, or on the contrary, wants to die, or perhaps wants to be reborn? If the dream repeats, it's a clear sign that the issue needs your attention. Dreams about death are not a reason to be afraid. They are an invitation to an inner dialogue. Such dreams help us understand what in our lives needs to change and what needs to be gently accepted. Let's go over it one more time, okay? So, who is dying? As we discussed, according to the second layer, we analyze dreams in 3 layers. In the second layer, we can associate this with someone we know, or even someone we don't, and reconsider our relationships with them. In the third layer, We can understand between which parts of our personality something has happened, what part of ourselves we see dying in the dream. So we look at who is dying. Next, as I mentioned before, we look at the circumstances of the death. We also pay attention to the emotions we experience during this. And an important clue can also be the place where it happens. If it's, for example, a dark forest, this might indicate the subconscious. If it's a vehicle, we've already discussed dreams about vehicles. This could represent the process of moving through life. And if the death happens in one of the apartments or houses where you used to live, for example, this could be a clue about a period when some part of your personality, you could say, died, meaning you lost some part of yourself. Pay attention to that. There may also be certain signs that hint at what caused it. For example, it could be poisoned food. So, for instance, when you were a child, you lived in a certain apartment and one of your relatives also lived there. And then in your dream, you find yourself in that apartment and see that a child dies there. He was poisoned by a piece of candy. So here, you can analyze it in such a way that you need to go back to the period when you lived in that apartment and remember whether it was that relative, a parent, or someone else. What did they give you? What emotion or situation did they, so to speak, give you that could have caused this poisoning of some part of your childhood personality? That is, all of this can be analyzed, taking into account various circumstances and your own personal life story. Be sure to pay attention to dreams about death. These can also tell you a lot and help you piece together your own personality, returning to it those parts that, at some point, may have been lost by you.